he said after a couple times that happening, he just couldn't do it anymore.
Not exactly a friendly situation, let me tell you.
Well,
and it doesn't necessarily have to be a UFO alien-related kind of a base. There are all kinds of high-tech and highly classified operations, and I know that the U.S. has a number of underground facilities for various reasons. If it's highly classified, then it's not going to be a very friendly environment.
No, just like Earl, Gray being on last night, like with his mother, going into this whatever it seemed like a mile down in the desert, and like a little city, underground. It sounds like this has been going on for a long time, and I think that it's going on more and more. I don't know. I don't know what that whole idea of what this is, or maybe they're thinking that maybe a group of certain people will survive. I don't know.
Well, I think it started in the 50s and 60s. President Eisenhower had a top secret plan on surviving a nuclear war, and they were building underground bunkers. There's an underground facility in, I believe it's West Virginia or Maryland, where the whole a second government can keep operating. They call it continuity of government. So I think the original idea was to have survivability in case of a nuclear war. But in the 80s, we started getting these rumors about underground UFO bases.
Oh yeah,
and we've heard rumors ever since.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we don't know if the rumors are true or not, but they very much could be. I just hate to say it's just been all these reports for Roswell, what happened there, all the way to now. It's kind of interesting. Now, also, you wanted to talk about a subject here tonight, and I know I've been talking about MUFON and UFO reports and stuff like that. But if you want to start in your topic, why don't we do that?
Oh, sure. And my area of interest, Gary, is the history of the MJ-12 affair. And when people hear MJ-12, they think about the MJ-12 committee and all of the alleged things that MJ-12 has done and the rumors and the myths and the legends. But I try to make a distinction because I'm interested in the history of the introduction of the MJ-12 documents and the stories into the public domain. That is, the people that have been involved in it and the sequence of events that have occurred. And it's my humble opinion that the MJ-12 affair began under this definition in the early 1980s. It began with the introduction of the so-called MJ-12 documents in 1984, which went public, I believe, in 1987. But we've had things going on since then. In the 1980s, we had the Roswell incident book come out under William Moore. There were the rumors and stories about the Paul Benowitz affair, the MJ-12 documents. In 1988, there was a UFO Cover-Up Live program. We had William Moore's revelations at the Mufon Symposium in 1989. In the 90s, we had the Timothy Cooper documents come out, and we had the alien autopsy film in 1995, and the Air Force was pretty much forced to come out with some explanation for all this in the 1990s. And then in the 2000s, we had these claims from this Dan Burrish person, and we had the story of the Project Serpo come out in emails in 2005. And then even recently, I think in 2017, Heather Wade, Midnight in the Desert, she put out this ultra top secret MJ-12 briefing document. So in my humble opinion, this has been going on for nearly 40 years. And I'm not saying that the documents are authentic, but this phenomenon of these documents and these claims and these stories being introduced in the public has been going on for a very long time. And I think that's part of the reason why people have a somewhat more open attitude about UFOs today.
I think so. I thought the MJ-12 started back during Eisenhower days. Now, I could be totally wrong on that.
Well, the so-called Eisenhower briefing document described a committee that was allegedly formed in 1947 after the Roswell recovery. But the document itself was a film of the documents was mailed to William Moore's research associate, Jamie Chandray, in 1984. And the first mention of the term MJ-12 was in a document which has come to be known as the Aquarius Telex, which Richard Doty and William Moore were involved with in the early 1980s. So what I'm actually talking about is when the documents in question arrived on the public scene.
Okay. Now, one thing you did mention, Heather Wade releasing the information. One thing I knew Heather Wade, through art, I should actually say. One thing I didn't condone when she did have her show, at one point she wanted to have a march on to Area 51. And I actually got into a argument with Heather over that, off the air type of thing. Back and forth between her producer and her and me. Actually, I was going to have her on my show, but then Art passed away. I really was against the whole idea of her getting a group of people going on to Area 51. Perfect example. What happened 6 months or so ago? A guy went on Area 51 carrying some type of object, and what did the security forces do to him?
He got shot.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to tell her, that you're risking not just your life, you're risking a whole bunch of other people's lives, maybe getting injured or going to jail or getting a felony on them. And that's what I was really concerned about. I just wanted to put my 2 cents in there.
No, I agree with you. I don't think that would be a good idea at all.
No,
I can tell you, if you're near a military base, they on the fences, and these are just run-of-the-mill, day-to-day military bases, okay? They'll have a sign that says restricted area, do not enter, okay? If you go inside there, they will pick you up really fast, okay? And they'll take you to the headquarters of the brig or wherever, and you don't have to be on a UFO base. Any military base is like that. And you take a place like Area 51, where they're allegedly testing all kinds of top secret and high technology, of course they're going to be extremely vigilant about keeping people out of there. So trying to go on there with individually or with a group is not a good idea.
No, and also a lot of people don't realize, I've had some other people say that, hey, they're going to go on to Area 51, or they manage to get into Area 51 off some back road, for example, and all of a sudden they saw these vehicles coming after them real fast. You got to understand, some of the sensors they use are so advanced, they can detect the ammonia in your skin. So, I mean, you don't have a chance. If you step on Area 51, you're either going to get grabbed, taken somewhere, or you're going to get shot. So don't ever do that. So I just want to clear that up because, you mentioned Heather Wade, and she had a lot of fan base that wanted to go march on to Area 51, and that literally scared me, Thomas. It did.
Yeah, that would not be a good idea.
No.
I agree with you 100% on that.
So what is going on now with MJ-12? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, what's really interesting right now is that Grant Cameron has come out with a claim that he's in possession of a document which is a recap of a conversation between two people, one of them being a very, very, very high-ranking admiral and a scientist. And in this conversation, and what I'm talking about here is what Michael Hall has related and what Grant Cameron has related on other internet radio programs.
Yeah, Michael Hall used to be on my network, so yes, he's a friend of mine.
Yeah. And this conversation took place, I think, over in an automobile, an hour or so, and allegedly certain things are asserted in that document, and the scientist who was in this conversation, I don't know if he recorded it or if he immediately went down and wrote down everything that he could remember about the conversation. But Grant Cameron has stated that it confirms MJ12, and that apparently some of the information from that conversation is explosive. Now, Grant Cameron has said that he was planning on including the copy of that document in the last chapter of his upcoming book, which I think is called Beyond Managing Magic. So far, it has not happened, but when it does, and there's some question if the whole document will be released or if it'll be released partially, and to what degree names in the document will be redacted.
Interesting.
But and Grant has stated that, it confirms MJ12 and has other explosive information in it.
I'm just
and that is something that could happen in the next 1 to 6 months, possibly.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the repercussions would be between, with Cameron and Michael W. Hall, because I know Michael W. Hall was going through and editing the book for Cameron. I'm just wondering what the repercussions could be with the government if that came out.
Well, for one thing, the document itself is a set of notes. It's a recap, a recapitulation of the conversation. So it is not a classified document. You know what I mean? It's not a document. It's not a report, like a report that's being released under the Freedom of Information Act or being leaked from a government agency. It's a transcript of a conversation between two people. And yes, it would have ramifications because people are named. There are names in the document from what Grant Cameron, what Michael Hall has stated. Now, Michael Hall has said, and again, I'm not relating anything that he hasn't already related publicly, but he's created what he calls a disclosure trust, and that the document is in safekeeping. He has a copy of it in safekeeping, and it's in safekeeping in more than one location. So at the very least, if anything happened to Grant Cameron, for example, if he just passed away naturally, there are provisions in the agreement that the document could be released at that time. But myself and other people that follow the MJ12 controversy closely are looking and hoping that something will be released, in the near future.
Yeah, I was actually hoping it would have been released by now because, talking to Michael about this even 4 or 5 months ago, I was, under the assumption it was just a matter of maybe weeks or a month or so, but maybe they're waiting just for the right time. I don't know.
Well, and at the moment we've had these disclosures, these discussions by the F-18 pilots in the Nimitz affair. And then we've had this step forward, which is really a step forward of the Navy saying that they're going to allow military personnel to freely report any what they call UAP incidents. That's interesting. And then even today, there's been a news article that DOD has admitted that ATIP was investigating these cases. So we're seeing these kind of incremental steps forward. Some people think we're on the verge of disclosure. I'm not too sure about that, but I think that some of the efforts that Tom DeLonge and TTSA have been undertaking behind the scenes and in Congress, I think we're starting to see some effects from that. And because of that, right now, that's really in the news, and TTSA is getting ready to come out with their series at the end of the month. So I don't know. Maybe Grant Cameron wants to wait until that blows over before he releases his. I don't know.
I was just